This video is sponsored by War Thunder. They say you can't look away from a car crash, and in video games, that's never been more true. There's nothing more satisfying than wrecking a car in a video game. But what makes a crash so much fun? Throughout the years, games have used various styles of vehicle destruction. Since 2008, we've had incredibly realistic damage effects with GTA 4. Fast forward to today, BeamNG has taken that realism to a whole new level. None of these games do it the same way, and once you see how different they really are, you'll never look at a crash the same again. First, let's look at what kinds of vehicle destruction are in video games. Some games barely show any damage at all on vehicles, and it's not just due to technical limitations either. Games like Gran Turismo 7 on the PS5 will show an entire wreck and not even dent a bumper, but it's not for lack of trying. Here's an interview with an anonymous game developer that worked at one of these major studios. This is what he said when asked why these games don't feature good destruction on their vehicles.
I think it's because so many companies have different rules about what can and can't be done on their cars. You get a situation where you have two different vehicles by two different car manufacturers in the same game, and they have to have different damage levels. So what happens now is, I think everyone gets reduced down to the B level, where damage is less prevalent on cars. It's a lot of work to do the damage. It's a significant amount of work. And there's additional approval processes, because you have to send how the damage model looks to the manufacturer so that they can approve it. So it goes through all of that.
Not only do licensors limit the overall destruction for their vehicles in-game, they also completely deny any damage to occur on the roof.
They're very, very specific that the roof can never be damaged. That's the main thing. The driver cell always has to be completely safe. That can never be part of it.
Matt Webster, an executive producer at Criterion Games, the studio that made the Burnout series, said this in an interview. "The only damage a car manufacturer will let you get away with is a bumper falling off." But this isn't always the case with licensed vehicle games. Need for Speed Pro Street featured many licensed vehicles, from Nissan and Toyota to Porsche and Lamborghini. These could all be mangled and wrecked with their advanced destruction system. We'll talk more about Pro Street's damage system later. Driver San Francisco also featured destructible licensed vehicles.
It's also for the first time in drivers' history, real licensed cars, over 100, well over 100, and we do damage them.
While these games were able to make it happen, games like Gran Turismo and Forza are limited on what they're legally allowed to do. In most cases, these car companies don't want their brand associated with anything negative. Car wrecks are a car manufacturer's worst nightmare. But this is frustrating for us as players, as this commenter pointed out in a Gran Turismo crash video. Why should we have to live in an advertising fantasy land where we pretend cars don't get damaged in crashes?
Life isn't about the destination. It's about the drive. Every mile tells a story. Every curve reveals who we are. This isn't just a car, it's a promise. A promise that nothing can break. Well, almost nothing. Coming in 2026, introducing the all-new Viper Centauri. Complete with a 0-star safety rating, approved by lawyers everywhere. Available for pre-order now. Viper, engineered to last until impact.
When developers couldn't make cars realistically fold up like paper, they leaned into something simpler, shader-based destruction. Dirt, scratches, broken glass, these became the go-to solution. It was just enough to give the illusion of wear and tear without tanking performance, or in some cases, upsetting the car companies. These scratches and dirt effects are basically a shader effect over the car model. Even games with advanced destruction still use these shader effects. In GTA 4, scratches develop on your car when you grind against cars or walls. Bullet holes appear when you shoot at the metal on the car, and when you completely destroy a car, a darkened burn shader covers the entire car. This is Jack Griffin, who worked on Burnout Paradise.
And what is a racing game without the stars of its show? What was so important for Burnout is crushing them and crashing them. Developing new shaders, new destruction and impact shaders for the cars was new, because we knew with the camera, the slow-mo camera, you'd be able to see close-ups of the vehicles, so we had to develop a whole new shaders.
The scratches and damaged textures had to be good enough in this game to watch develop in slow motion. You can see how the scratch shader effect slowly appeared in areas that were hit. In Wreckfest 2, you get scratches and dirt buildup while you play. These effects might not be as noticeable when playing, but without these effects, it would look really odd. It's a perfect example of how much work goes in behind the scenes, making things look so real that you don't even notice them. The most used technique for vehicle destruction is where a game will quickly swap out a model with a pre-made damaged one. These swaps are convincing enough for most games, but they're not as immersive as some of the better techniques. In GTA San Andreas, if we go frame by frame and crash a car's hood, we can see that it suddenly switches the hood out with a damaged one. This is true for all of the components on any car. Driver 3 does its damage similarly. The frame itself is actually never affected, only the detachable components can be damaged. The roof on any vehicle remains undamaged no matter how much you roll it. The Simpsons Hit and Run does it similarly, except other civilian cars don't actually have any damage effects other than smoke and exploding. You can also drive the car after it's exploded.
Wow, this car sure can take a beating.
Even PlayStation 1 era games were able to take advantage of this method and make it look convincing. Vigilante 8 Second Offense was a vehicle combat game. Each level let you free roam the map and battle it out with the other cars. The damage effects were convincing enough, and the damage system made the combat rewarding. Flatout 1 and 2 didn't use real soft body physics, but they pushed model swapping about as far as you can. Each car was divided up into pre-modeled damage zones, like the hood, bumper, fender, and the rear, and each zone had multiple broken versions. When you hit a spot, the game swapped in the damaged version for that zone. Sometimes you'd see the same deformation repeat if you hit the same spot twice on separate occasions, but different zones could swap independently and overlap, blending together. It created the illusion of a more dynamic, seamless damage, when in reality, it was just really fancy model swapping. Here's 3 separate occasions crashing the car. You can see it uses that same damage model on the roof. Model swapping is the least interesting damage system to play with, but it really is cool to see how older games faked it till they made it. Destruction Derby on the PlayStation 1 featured awesome destruction, but when pieces would fly off, they would disappear. The father of PlayStation, Ken Kutagari, personally flew over with engineers to see Destruction Derby in development. He loved it, but he did say it was a shame that debris from the cars didn't stay on the track. The original PlayStation had only 2 megabytes of main RAM, which was a very limited amount compared to today's consoles. This meant developers had to make difficult choices about what features to prioritize. These days, we aren't bound by that limitation. Many games now feature detachable vehicle components, and they stay on the track. In Test Drive, Eve of Destruction, the raceway can become littered in bumpers and broken pieces from the cars. In Need for Speed Pro Street, your hood can fling off with force and smash into the cars or roadway behind you. The side mirrors can also dangle and physically react with your turns, and they can ultimately fall off too. A game that handles vehicle destruction and combat in a really interesting way is this video's sponsor, War Thunder. Destruction in this game is shown in this X-ray view, which is my favorite feature in the game. It lets you see the damage you caused and what enemies it actually affected. In War Thunder, every vehicle has weight, handling, and function based on its real-life equivalent. It's also the most comprehensive vehicle combat game ever made. You can take command of over 2,500 tanks, planes, helicopters, and ships of 10 major nations, ranging from biplanes and armored cars of the 1920s to the fighter jets and main battle tanks of today. And destruction is front and center as a core gameplay mechanic. You can play War Thunder on PC and console, and War Thunder now has an all-new mobile version available on iOS and Android, allowing you to play on the battlefield wherever you go. The mobile version features intuitive controls, impressive graphics, and the familiar massive multiplayer warfare in dynamic ground and sea battles with air support. In that X-ray view I mentioned, you'll see precisely where all the shells penetrated, which components were affected, and what ultimately led to the destruction of the vehicle. Join a worldwide community of over 95 million players in awesome PvP battles today. Immerse yourself in the intense combat of War Thunder, where incredibly detailed vehicles, realistic graphics, and authentic sound effects place you right at the helm of the most powerful war machines of our time. Sign up for free using the links in my description and pinned comment. For a limited time only, there's a massive bonus pack available for new and returning players that haven't played for at least 6 months on PC and consoles, including the exclusive vehicle decorator, Eagle of Valor, 100,000 Silver Lions, and 7 days of premium. Thank you, War Thunder, for sponsoring this video. Back in the 3D era GTA games, cars were comprised of many different pieces. Each piece could transform into a damaged state and break off too. These pieces weren't completely physical though. They didn't react to the player. For instance, you could just walk through the doors. And after the hood landed on the road, you could just phase through it, if you could even see it, as it mostly went into the ground. In GTA 4, it was even more realistic. Each object attached to a car was a real physical object. You could even break them off and still interact with them. Interestingly, Driver 3 released months before San Andreas, and all of its vehicle components had collision. Some games even include wheels or tires breaking off. It makes the race more interesting when you're literally battling for first place and you run the risk of losing your wheels. It's cool too when destruction at this level makes its way to shooters like Halo. It's also cool when items can be in the bed of a truck and you watch them shift around or even fly out. In Street Legal Racing Redline, literally every component that makes up the car could be removed, even the seats. Banjo-Kazooie, Trailmakers, Space Engineers, Kerbal Space Program, Brick Rigs, Crossout, and Besiege are all games where you build your own vehicles. In these games, they're built block by block or piece by piece, and they use a rigid body physics system to break apart the components. Not only do you get to create your own vehicles in these games, but you also get to destroy your creations. These destruction features make it so you have to build these vehicles with destruction in mind, so your vehicle can withstand the situations you put them through. Putting them to the test becomes a gameplay loop in and of itself. In GTA 5, when you crash an airplane, it basically destroys into all the pieces or chunks that make up the airplane. It doesn't look very realistic like an airplane crash in BeamNG does, which we'll look at later. But it's good enough for a game made in 2013. GTA 4's helicopter crashes were always impressive because you could rip off the tail of your helicopter by hitting a building with it, then you'd lose control and start twirling through the air. It's easy enough to have vehicle objects detached from the body, but how do game developers take this a step further?
Damage is realistic. Damage is punishing. But if you hit a wall at over 90 miles an hour, it's not going to drive the way it used to.
Custom Vertex Morphing for vehicle destruction is one of the most fun and advanced methods in gaming. Let's look at 3 games that did Vertex Morphing damage exceptionally well: GTA 4, Burnout Paradise, and Wreckfest 2. What is Vertex Morphing? Any 3D model in a video game, like a car, is made up of connected points called vertices. This destruction method calculates the force, direction, and location of impact on a mesh. They add some limitations on how far the mesh can deform, then let the player interact with the world. Any impacts on the vertices are then calculated to bend and deform on the 3D model.
In Burnout Paradise, if we wanted to, we could smash the entire car down to just the monocoque and really just make it a small hunk of metal. What that gives us is the ability to have every crash in the game is completely unique. So depending on how heavy the car is, how the car's set up, the weight and the speed at which I carry into a crash, what I'm crashing into. Am I crashing into the world? Am I crashing into an AI car? Am I crashing into a traffic car? Every crash and every piece of deformation you see in the game is handled in real time and will be unique for every single crash. The way we're approaching crashes this year is very, very different and very, very unique.
That was Craig Sullivan. He was the lead designer for Burnout Paradise and also the first game designer to join Criterion Games. The method of destruction he's talking about is what makes playing and crashing in games so much fun. When every crash is unique, you create the destruction yourself.
Also in online, use of PlayStation Eye is just absolutely key for us. Every time you make them crash or they make you crash, we take your picture and show it to the other player. We call that a mugshot. In our experiences, we've stayed playing online a lot longer when cameras have been switched on.
Earlier, we talked about undamageable vehicles due to vehicle manufacturers not allowing it, but this can be entirely bypassed by making your own cars. Rockstar Games has been doing this since the beginning of GTA, even with fake car brands and lore.
We knew that our vehicles would continue to be unlicensed. It meant that we could do whatever we wanted to them, really. We weren't beholden to a manufacturer to tone it down or to be a lot more careful about how we tore them up. Car manufacturers often very understandably protective over letting their vehicles be destroyed, though we knew they still had to be believable as well, so obviously based on a lot of real life muscle cars, sports cars, other weird and wonderful things.
Without the limitation from licensed vehicles, damage can take front and center, even to the point where the vehicle can be torn in half.
And we wanted them to look as kind of sexy, smashed up as they were new. So a lot of previs on doing kind of crash test dummy style tests on what it meant to really kind of destroy a car, even tearing it in half. That was always one of our goals as well, the idea that you could just carve through a vehicle. This felt like a super Burnout kind of thing to do, with some concept there as well, really destroying the vehicle. And we got it working in-game. Actually managed to get it working in-game, but yeah, unfortunately it proved too expensive to be able to kind of do that, so we had to leave that to the side.
Unfortunately, tearing vehicles in half isn't in the real game, and many have also said that the destruction was better in the 1.0 version of the game, before DLC was introduced that downgraded the damage. But even in spite of this, the destruction system in Burnout Paradise is a lot of fun to play with. This is the 1.0 version in this video, which the community agrees is the best version.
So I think a lot of those impacts and those crashes still hold up today. We built the vehicles with a lot of much more weighted deformation points than we had done previously to really give unique impacts rather than just swapping out sections of the car. Every crash felt unique and interesting.
Not every crash in this game was the end though. Some wrecks were labeled as drive away, where you could recover and continue driving with the damage you accumulated. It was cool because you could keep driving while the crash camera was still active. Alex Ward was the creative director for the Burnout series. This series means so much to gamers today since it's something many of us grew up with. He's now started his own studio, Three Fields Entertainment, and is releasing the spiritual successor to Burnout, a game called Recreation. We don't know much about it yet, but if you loved the Burnout series, it'll hopefully turn out to be just as good. Another more well-known game to use this Vertex Morphing technique is GTA 4. In GTA 4, you can nearly flatten vehicles into pancakes. This is what destruction is all about. Nothing is cooler than jumping a car or a bus off a skyscraper and smashing it into the cars below, or repeatedly smashing a car into a wall until it's as narrow as a motorcycle. The frame itself bent in GTA 4 too, to the point where your head could stick out of the roof if the car was smashed in enough. In GTA 5, the damage was actually better in the original versions of the game. When the PS4 and PC versions of the game were released, they minimized the amount of damage that you could have on the cars, most likely because of the first-person mode. They probably found that the roof was denting into the player's view too often. A bonus game that did this was Crash Time. It used vertex displacement for its crashes. Though it felt more like an indie game, it's impressive to see better damage implementation than most AAA games. You could even flatten cars by ramming them repeatedly, just like you could in GTA 4. Wreckfest 2 still hasn't officially been released, but on Steam they've made an early access version available. They've even included a map reminiscent of BeamNG's test map where you can see their version of vehicle destruction in action. Here you can crush the vehicles and see their vertex destruction. Few games do vertex-based destruction as good as the Wreckfest guys. The games that offer unique crashes based on what the player does are the best at doing crashes. They understand that a crash is more than an explosion or effect. It's the player's effect on that vehicle. Why not make the crashes part of the core experience?
Really reveling in the crashing experience, the kind of Michael Bay-inspired collisions, not so many explosions unfortunately, but making it really fun to crash rather than something that kind of felt fatal or would slow you down.
Vertex deformation is one thing, but there is a method that completely surpasses all other vehicle destruction methods. Full soft body physics. BeamNG was born from the passionate modders and developers behind Rigs of Rods. It took the soft body physics they pioneered and pushed it to the extreme, making BeamNG the most advanced crash simulator ever made, and arguably one of the best games on Earth for vehicle destruction.
Yeah, so BeamNG is it's super unique because of the physics engine. So it's a physics engine that's completely different than, the other video games out there. And that's because the forces actually travel through from like the wheel into the shocks into the body. The secret is, you have two mass nodes and they're connected by a beam. And the beam could basically transfer energy. It could absorb energy. It could, once it's compressed, it could extend a certain length, spring, dampening, rebound, all that stuff. When you have all these properties and all these forces flowing through the vehicle, that way you could simulate pretty much, most materials in the vehicle realistically. And then the vehicle could react realistically in any situation. And that's why, like the crashing is super nice, or like when the vehicle jumps and lands, like the forces pass through the vehicle really, really nicely. And, if you watch the YouTubers or slow motion, you can see the whole thing jiggle just like in real life.
Amazing.
That's what really separates us from the crowd, is we could really do things with these vehicles that, what these other people can't do.
Every single component of a vehicle is simulated in real time, using nodes or mass points and beams, which are springs. With BeamNG's destruction physics, you can actually crush a car as if it were a real car in a junkyard. Every single component of the vehicle can be bent and detached. Each car is built like a real car, each piece properly placed and weighted.
Every suspension point has to be dead accurate. There's a lot of suspension design that goes on, like kingpin inclination angle, like if that's off, or anti-dive, anti-lift.
Wow.
There's like all these like tiny things we have to figure out. And, and it's not only that, like I remember we had this issue, we had the gas tank on the wrong side of the widgeon, and it was throwing off the weight balance. And we're just like,
big thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Every vehicle has to be perfect in a game that's simulating everything like real life. As Jared, the vehicle lead for BeamNG, mentioned, one small misplacement can cause issues for the entire car.
You really only think about in like real life building and stuff like, oh, like if the wheel like goes all the way up, it's going to hit the fender, and now like the fender rips off. I messed up on the location of the A-arms, and like it happens, in BeamNG.
Right.
So
just how realistic it is, and how much work goes into it. Yeah.
Exactly. Everything has to be, basically engineered down to the dot, whether it's suspension design, like how the chassis deforms, like how the forces flow through it, the 3D modeling, so stuff doesn't intersect. All of our suspension has to be realistic, like the rock crawler hopper, the axle had to move forward, just like in real life, so like it could clear the engine. That's what makes it really, really difficult, is all the research that goes into this and all the thinking, the revisions too. We build it and we're like, oh, this isn't working. Just like in real life, you got to go back to the shop. You got to like cut the, the linkages off and reposition them. But that's what also makes it fun. That's why I enjoy working on this project so much, because I love building in real life, and this gives me the same type of like feeling and passion and like love for these vehicles.
They don't just model a car and call it a day. They dig deep to include every detail they possibly can. You can watch all of that suspension do its thing. You can see the drive shaft spinning, the chassis flexing, the tires deforming, everything. It's so accurate in its simulation of how cars are constructed that you can clearly see the difference between old cars and new cars in an accident. They're even currently working on adding tire physics. They're getting all the data they need for wear, sounds, and even friction for the tires in BeamNG.
Whatever their tire testing machine produces, we can feed back into our own replica of the tire testing machine, and then see direct correlation between, at every given moment, how much force did the tire produce.
The game is so realistic that people use it to recreate real car accidents. Each crash in BeamNG looks like you're watching a test dummy crash from a vehicle manufacturer. Unfortunately, BeamNG vehicles are so real that they don't fit well in a video game sense. Crossing a curb too fast can destroy your wheel. Crashing into another car can make your two cars inseparable as the two bodies are mangled together. BeamNG is great for spawning in a fresh car and wrecking it. In a game like GTA, it probably wouldn't last more than a minute or two after you stole it. James May said, "It's more fun driving a slow car fast than a fast car slow," and BeamNG proves this to be a fact. BeamNG may be the gold standard for realistic crashes, but not every game chases reality. Realism is just one flavor of destruction. Some of the most creative approaches aren't about realism at all. Teardown is a voxel-based destruction game on PC. You can destroy basically everything in the world in this game, including vehicles. the game has a huge variety of vehicles. They're all held together by the voxels that make them up, so shooting at the boom of an excavator will cause the whole arm to collapse. You can shoot all vehicles down to their wheels and core, but they don't drive after that. Outside of Teardown, Automontage Inc. has uploaded a few videos over the last decade, and a few more recently showcasing voxel-based vehicle destruction and gameplay. In the more recent uploads, the wheels leave behind physical tire tracks, pushing into the sand. In the video from 10 years ago, destroying the wheel will also cause it to drive the way you'd expect it to when it's damaged in that way. There are more ways to destroy a car than just crashing it. For instance, in Hulk Ultimate Destruction, Hulk can grab a car, rip it in half, and smash it around his fists to turn it into boxing gloves. He can also run and plow through vehicles throughout the city. In any Hulk game, really, you can destroy the cars around you. The same team behind Hulk Ultimate Destruction went on to make the Prototype series, and Alex Mercer can beat up cars just as well as Hulk. Even Street Fighter has it figured out. In 1991's Street Fighter 2, there's a bonus fight where you battle a defenseless car.
Perfect!
Sometimes the best vehicle damage is the damage your car can do to the world around it. In Ridge Racer Unbounded, the vehicle destruction was good, but it also included the ability to reshape the race itself by smashing through pillars in a tunnel or even through shopping malls. Split Second was a racing game in the same vein, pure destruction. This time, you used skyscrapers, wrecking balls, and more to destroy the competition. The PlayStation exclusive MotorStorm Apocalypse let you race through an entire city as it collapsed around you. You'd be driving through collapsing buildings and jumping from roof to roof. Then there are the sim-style racers that keep track of the wear and tear on your vehicle. Gran Turismo 1 and 2 feature tire wear in the endurance races. At the bottom, you could see the condition of your tires, and you'd have to go to a pit stop if they were starting to fail. You can shoot the suspension and watch the car slowly lower in GTA 4. If you damaged the car enough, the engine would die, and you'd have to call the police to get it to actually start. And in older GTAs, if the car flipped over, it would just catch fire and quickly explode. Everyone knows the anxiety involved with quickly tapping the triangle button and trying to run away from the car before it exploded. The greatest tool for destruction in GTA 4 wasn't the bus, it was the swing set. Shift 2 Unleashed, the Need for Speed game, had the most visceral driving experience. The game was best played in first-person mode behind the steering wheel. When you turned at high speeds, you'd be leaning. When tapping against other cars, your entire car and head shook. And when you slammed against barriers or walls, you basically blacked out. Your steering could get knocked out of alignment, making it difficult to stay on the track. You could be pulling it to the left as hard as you could, but it'd still be going to the right. Your gearbox could get stuck in one gear, essentially ending your race. Your windshield would crack and fill with dirt, making it difficult to see through. The game was designed to make you feel like a real driver feels, G-forces and incredible speeds. This game was tough, but rewarding. In Star Citizen, you can literally scrape the metal off of the outer hull of ships, revealing their core. The game plans to incorporate very detailed ship destruction, but for now, it's still a work in progress. Some games even have persistent damage across races, or throughout the game. In Need for Speed Pro Street, you would take part in events, and your choice of cars would be all you had to get through the event. You could get repair tokens sometimes, but the persistent damage made it feel like you were taking your set amount of Pokemon, or cars, in to fight a gym leader. It added more strategy. Test Drive Eve of Destruction was similar, but when you paid to repair the car, its overall max health would decrease. This meant that if you kept trying to repair it, at a certain point it would be too fragile to repair. Destructible vehicles don't always have to be cars though. The best boat sinking simulator is probably Floating Sandbox. It's a side-scroller, but it simulates each chamber when a boat is sinking. Another game with fun boat destruction is Sea of Thieves. You can get in ship-to-ship cannon battles. You and your crew have to work together to fight back and to keep your ship held together and afloat. IL-2 Sturmovik Great Battles has pretty cool plane crashes. In this clip uploaded by Renzik, the wing gets blown off, and while it hurls to the earth, people can be seen jumping out of the plane. Most games handle airplane destruction by splitting the plane into chunks and free-falling to the ground. BeamNG shows just how cool an airplane crash could be. This, mixed with a crater being formed, would make airplane crashes incredible. In GTA San Andreas, you can drive the train, but if you keep speeding up the train long enough, you can actually derail it too. We all love the way a car looks when it's totaled, be it morbid curiosity or just the thrill of watching giant masses of metal crush under impact. It's a universally shared feeling. Crashing a car in a game gives us a safe dose of adrenaline. In real life, crashes like these are terrifying and most times fatal. But in games, we get all the thrill with none of the danger. Studies show that humans are drawn to dangerous events even when we find them disturbing. Your brain wants to see what's happening because it might give you survival information. We can't look away from car crashes. There's something hardwired in us to stare at destruction, to marvel at chaos. And games know it. Games like Burnout figured out that racing games can be about more than just winning a race. They put chaos front and center, giving you something to engage with from the start to the finish. Games like BeamNG, Burnout, Wreckfest, GTA 4, and the like all give answer to the age-old question: what happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object? Don't forget to check out War Thunder on the platform of your choice using the links in my description to receive that bonus pack.